Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jason here. I wanted to talk about my experiences and whatnot in a video format. This is good for audio learners and whatnot. So the first thing, I need to discuss two topics during our class and how they relate to things learned during my field work. So we talked about white privilege in class, and I really noticed I was in Newark, and I was the only white person in my classroom and almost around the whole school. And this happens to some African Americans and other minorities in honors and AP and even in regular classes at typical suburban upper middle class schools. And like it's just at first it felt weird because I'm used to my whole life being in a spot where like the majority were white individuals, and it really, I it was a different experience and I got over it. Another thing I want to talk about is the funds of knowledge. So students came in with a lot of different funds of knowledge. Some people, a lot of them were workers, older individuals, and they had that experience. So uh, one thing, if we related problems to like the supermarket and like word problems, two-step word problems and whatnot, or something similar to what they happen in their real life, authentic assignments. Let me pull it up right here. One thing we did in class were word problems that let me read one. 331 students went on a field trip. 6 buses were filled, and 7 students traveled in cars. How many students were in each bus? I feel like when we did problems that were more related to into the supermarket, this happened. What happened here? Students were able to better understand what was going on, and better equipped to solve the problems because it related to their real life. Okay, so the next thing says to reflect on my PIP goals. So my PIP goals, my first one I will reflect on was that I wanted students to know that I care without being getting taken advantage of. Um, so the students were very respectful. They really wanted their high school diploma, most of the people going to the school. So they gave me respect naturally, which I'm not sure if that's going to happen in a public school environment, especially I'm doing the inner city program. So I still want to develop that goal. The next goal is being able to diffuse situations. I witnessed my teacher diffuse, or the teacher of the classroom, Miss E, diffuse situations. She was very stern with them. She's like, sit down, we don't do this here. And then she'd be nice again. So she showed authority when she had to, but then she went back to being her nice, positive self. I think a good idea is to teach the rules beforehand, and then after teaching the rules, make sure to reteach them throughout. That's what we learned in my special ed class, and then the consequences for those rules. So I want to how my experience affects differentiation. So in my classroom, everybody got the same worksheet, like the one I showed you here, or the one on Pythagorean theorem here, and I had one student in particular who was extremely smart. She probably should have been in the honors class. I was trying to tell her this to get in the honors class. And everybody got the same thing. So some people would finish really early and they'd be bored for 20 minutes. And I thought it would be much better if we could give more problems to students who finish earlier. If people need more assistance, we could explicitly teach them more. Or we could use strategies such as, like, for the Pythagorean theorem, a squared equals, or c squared equals a squared plus b squared. We could use a mnemonic device, a letter for A, a letter for B, a letter for C, and then the equals to help students learn, like an acronym or some nature. And I think that could help. Different strategies help different students. We could do assessments to figure out, if we have the data before and after a student uses a strategy, and if there's improvement, that's great. So I think it's good to differentiate by testing all students and using frequency modeling of some sort, or some other form that we could do. We observe the students, we could take data down, and then after that, we'll see before and after we implement a strategy to differentiate. We could also use peer grouping, so match two individual peers together at even if they're at different levels, or if they're at the same level, they could work together on problems that satisfy the general education curriculum. But maybe for like the honor student in my class, she could have had more challenging problems. etc. And then there were other people in the class who were also above certain levels. People were on different levels, so we could differentiate the worksheets, which is a lot of time to take. I understand that, but it needs to be done to make sure everybody's learning effectively. So the next thing says students must mention. Let's see how it relates to inclusion. Okay. Uh, so I noticed in the classroom environment, every student was treated with respect. Everyone who wanted to go was treated great. Uh, the superintendent of the school, or the principal, he was great. He was friendly with everyone. He showed respect. The teacher showed respect and was only mean if she had to. So everyone was welcome. I'm a white male going into a predominantly African American school, and I was welcome. The teacher, she gave me a hug. The students liked me very much after getting to know me, and it was hard to be the only white male at first, or one of the only white males in the school, but everybody was super nice to me, and I think it's because the teacher created a supportive environment where if people said stuff that wasn't appropriate, she'd be stern and be like, we don't do this here, and then she'd be back to being nice. So let's keep going through this. So now discrimination and marginalization. So some of these students, just the conditions of the school, I saw the bathrooms, only one toilet was working at one point, a lot of cracks in the hallways. The heat would make a really loud noise that would make it really hard to learn. For me, anyway, who needs more quiet environment, I thought it was a little unfair for that. However, aside from that, a lot of these students, African Americans we discussed, are predominantly a lot more placed in special ed than uh, Caucasian individuals, and that's unfair. And I'm not sure about the specific students at NEDC, but there is marginalization, especially in Newark. There's gerrymandering going on. They were talking about where the taxes are getting so high, and like African American citizens of the town who have been living there for so long have to actually leave the area because they can't afford it anymore, and their family's been there for so long. So that's an issue in itself. So let's keep going through this. Let's see. So content area. So it was nice observing a math teacher because I was able to learn new ways. One activity she did, for geometry, she's having them develop a town, and they have criteria. So there's a rubric. You have to have like alternative interior angles and part of it, etc. So it gives students a creative outlook on an assignment, and it helps them learn the tool. It's a good mastery tool when students understand key geometric topics. We didn't get into the depth of it because I finished my field work, but it looks like an amazing idea, and it's an authentic real-life activity, which I really like. Okay, let's keep going. So, create authentic, okay. So, distribute. So, power in the classroom. So, if we talk about power in the classroom, it was pretty obvious that the teacher had most of the power. She would explicitly teach and then hand out a worksheet and walk around, but students were able to ask questions. They were generally very respectful, most of them. Some of them weren't. Some of them were in the back laughing or on their phone, and I think the teacher should have discussed the rules maybe a little better, like, hey, if you're on your phone, you're going to get a warning the first time. If I'm the second time, a more stern warning than maybe like a small punishment, and then increase it depending on the difficulty of what they did. So that's one thing I would have changed. Let's keep going. So U.S. society in general, I think that the rich keep getting richer, the poor keep getting poorer. We talked about Matthew's effect. It's kind of true. If you have money, you pass it on to your offsprings. You keep passing it on. I think that's, and if you're poor, sometimes you don't focus on what's needed. You're not taught what's needed to get further. like education may be super important, but some people aren't taught how to write a resume, and some people are taught. Some people can afford thousands of dollars of tutoring on SAT to get a great score, and some people can't. So, there's a lot of disequilibrium and unfair advantages in the U.S. Hey guys, what's up? I want to talk about an educational theory. It's called constructivism. So, teachers will pose mastery level problems like the geometry town one that my teacher did, Miss E, in NEC, and they will scaffold to help the students solve it, and they're usually authentic, real-life related problems, and I think it's a very good idea, especially like the math curriculum has a lot about like parabolas and a lot of topics that many people just teach to memorize the formulas, but they have so many cool things. One of my classes, they have a game which is really great, a Mario game, and you try to trace the trajectory of the parabola. So the trajectory like this, that would work. That would allow Mario to get over an area that has like a gap. So we need a one like this, and it gives you the equation, so it helps make it more fun, related to real life, like kind of problem solve a bit, etc. Hey guys, what's up? I wanted to provide like appropriate strategies for marginalization, discrimination, etc. I think at first, from a young age, students need to be taught that everybody is equal, that people have suffered throughout history, we don't want history to repeat itself, and that we all have to treat each other with respect. I think we need to inspire community, and we want students to give back to their community. So we don't want people to grow up and just move right out of their community if they get successful. We want them to give back to it and help it. So that all determines from a young age teaching about the importance of giving back to community, helping expand our town, etc. And that's not something, that's kind of like the hidden curriculum in a way, which we've talked about. That's not something that's generally required from the main curriculum. However, it's something that should be taught because we need people, after getting an education, you want to help your community grow and expand. Hey guys, I just want to talk about some of the experiences with specific students. So one student, their charter school closed down, and they had to attend Central High School, and they needed different requirements, so they had to go to night school. I thought that was really upsetting that had to happen. Another student was very smart, and I feel like she should have been in the honors class and maybe had more differentiation if she was forced to be not be in the honors class because it was too late. Maybe like having some harder problems, etc. That could have been good. I would have liked to see that. And yeah.